This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Speak Up Effective Communication, the show on the Aftermarket Radio Network, focusing our attention on our communication and our leadership skills. And in our episode today, we are talking about my generation and the one following it, and probably generations in general, with two of my favorite colleagues with me today. We have Kent Bullard and Sara Fraser. Thank you so much for joining me. And hey, folks, we have a word of the day, as we do on every episode. And it's so funny because Kent used it as we were talking before this meeting already. Today's word of the day is convoluted. It is an adjective, but we'll define this word for you after we hear a brief word from our sponsors. Looking to take your shop to the next level of quality service, team culture, and overall profitability? At the Institute, we provide personalized coaching that aligns with your goals of financial stability, excellent customer service, and employee satisfaction. Our priority is helping you establish significant and sustainable progress. We work with you to create strategies that reduce the stress of running your business, improve your quality and performance, and optimize your profitability. Experience the benefits of professional coaching by visiting wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment. Hey friends, as you know, I'm a proud member of the AutoFlow team, and let me tell you, we've changed how business is done for auto shops everywhere. We support your client experience before, during, and after the work is done. Imagine this. Timely updates sent directly to your clients, branded digital vehicle inspections, and seamless communication from start to finish. That's why shops love AutoFlow. And hey, with those 5-star reviews rolling in, you'll wonder how you ever managed without us. Take an important next step and take your auto shop to the next level. Visit www.autoflow.com. Get on board with an AutoFlow trial. Want to see your auto repair shop thrive? Are you looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Let ShopDog Marketing be your guide. Our customer-first approach, combined with AI-driven creative content, ensures top rankings. Dominate mobile first and voice search with our specialized expertise. Reach out to ShopDog Marketing today and start growing your business. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit shopdogmarketing.com. Inbound has exclusively served independent auto repair shops with expert communication solutions for years. Our robust VoIP platform ensures you stay connected while our industry-leading AI analytics take your business to the next level. We provide the tools you need to understand your customers and optimize every interaction. Choose Inbound for proven expertise and unmatched innovation. Visit callinbound.com and discover the difference we can make. Hey, we're back, and our word of the day is convoluted. As said, it is an adjective. It's extremely complex, difficult to follow. And its convoluted narrative encompasses all manner of digressions, would be a convoluted sentence. It can also be technical, intricately folded, twisted, or coiled. And used in another sentence with that one, it said, walnuts come in hard and convoluted shells. I thought that was a bit of a weird sentence to use as well. I've never thought of a walnut shell was convoluted.
Did you choose this word for today because you think millennials are convoluted?
I think the conversation can become very convoluted, especially as we start throwing statistics into it. So it's a good question, Sara. And I think it has been convoluted for a period of time. All right. Now, we're going to do the thing that we should never do on this is we're going to ask everyone their age, right? So I'm 42 in August coming up, an elder millennial by my definitions of this. Kent, how old are you now?
Well, I've gotten in my mid 40s, which hurts my heart a little bit.
Well, maybe literally.
But this year I'll be 32.
Hey, good. All right. Still a baby. Oh, that's great. I remember my 30s. They weren't that long ago. Sara, I know, terrible question.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Actually, in August, I'll be 40. So, and it's something I talk about a lot because people still think millennials are young. And I'm like, I'm going to be 40 this year. So we're not, you know?
We're not young. And yet it's still,
I still feel young.
Generation. Yeah, me too. Good. Yes, that's excellent. As we should. And August birthdays, by the way, awesome.
Yes.
Nice. All right.
Kent, are you August too?
Yeah,
No.
I don't know. You're so awesome.
Oh, you were just nodding along. I wasn't sure.
Awesome. People having birthdays. All right.
Well, what I love about this panel is we've known each other a while now, but all of us have entered this business from a generational family business in some context. Kent, everyone knows your dad, Cecil, and it's been great seeing you take on the role you have in the organization. Sara, everyone knows your dad, Bill Haas. It's just another example. My grandpa knew Bill. They knew each other. It's like so crazy that the network in this industry is still so small, it seems like. But we have I think, a shared perspective about what it's like coming into an industry like this. And that's where we wanted to take this conversation today. A lot can be said about communicating across generations. A lot can be said about millennials in general. Our industry has some really effective millennial leaders now, and we're still seeing older shop owners as well. Older as in your Xers or boomers. But hey, we are shaping the industry now. This generation is truly starting to shape this industry.
We're pretty big and we're coming into our own now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's high time I feel like we understand it a little better. And this is where it gets really fun because Kent has he really spearheaded this. We were having a conversation with the gentleman from Apex. We were talking about generations with them, and you did a little bit of what I would call over prepping.
I call it research.
Kent? No way.
Okay. I don't like being unprepared. Let's say that, okay? I was a Boy Scout. Okay.
Nice. I need a good compass recommendation for my hiking here when we talk later on, by the way.
Right.
But here's the thing, Kent, truth, it's not over prepping. You're very analytical, and I really appreciate that about you because you do like to dive into the deepness of any topic that we're talking about because you're looking for the truth of the matter at hand. And the survey that you put together is what I want to draw attention to for our listeners here at Speak Up. Our loyal listeners are really engaged in communication topics. I get some great questions periodically on a number of things, and I do see generational differences as a component that a lot of people struggle with, and it comes up all the time in training classes. I think every one of us has seen this, and Sara, probably none more than you, because you actually do teach and present on a class regarding generations. I've been a student in it. It gets people talking, and it's like, yeah, we're making these associations and connections all the time. So statistically, I thought it'd be fun to go through some numbers that Kent had and then get your comments on each one as we go through. We picked a few, I think, ahead of time, which were really interesting to me. And so I'm going to give the number and a brief bit about that. And then Kent, give us the statistic about it. And then let's talk about each one for a minute, because I think these are absolutely on point with what I'm seeing in the industry. And the first number that I have here is 83%. And that is the number of people, as I understand it, Kent, that will have work done for them, but yet they still research.
Yeah, it's funny that you look at this and they kind of mix between do it yourself and do it for me. Mm-hmm. They'll do all the research required for do it yourself. They'll do the YouTubes, they'll go online, they'll look at what's recommended, but then they'll have 83% of them will actually have a shop do the work for them.
And this is specific to millennials and this particular
specific to millennials. They're also that also coincides with, and I didn't add this, but it also coincides with making sure that they're maintaining for the service recommendations and schedules as well.
Maintaining. Oh, and Sara, I was just thinking, when are the millennials defined?
Millennials were born 81 to 96.
Got it.
Yep. So I think our youngest millennials are, oh gosh, math is hard, but I want to say 27, 28 right now.
It's going to be, 27, 28.
Yeah.
So think about that though, guys. So they are following recommendations. They're educating themselves on the services that are being provided so that they have some context, right? I kind of see this more as I feel, and I brought this up in the last one, but I feel like there's a lack of mentorship and shared experience. You've got this gap. And so I think this is just further evidence to say, well, most people didn't necessarily have a mentor to talk to them about their car maintenance. So they're just going to go online and at least give themselves some context before they go into the shop and have somebody else do it.
Yeah.
But I think that transparency is so big to millennials. So being able to do that research ahead of time to know what it is that I'm getting done, what's actually happening when I drop my vehicle off, am I paying for something that I actually need? Like kind of that finding the truth of the matter, doing all the facts, but not doing the work themselves, just wanting to make sure that they're doing the right thing and not having that guidance of somebody telling you, yeah, this is what you need to do or where you need to go. Or a lot of that research comes down to influencers and things like that as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like millennials are a bit more skeptical is one of the things I've learned. Sara, you talk about this.
I would say X is far more skeptical than millennials.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, Gen X is very skeptical. Millennials, I think the elder millennials still fall into that a little bit, but millennials tend to be more optimistic than, like Gen Z you have is very realistic. Millennials are very optimistic. Gen X tends to be very skeptical and maybe even slightly towards pessimistic.
Yeah, I wouldn't say millennials are skeptical. I'd say more so that they have trust issues. They're really hopeful, but they have trust issues.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Good take on that, Kent. Yeah, I was in my dad's shop recently, and it was one of those days where I walked in and had a nice reminder of why I'm happy to be in software instead of the family business some days. There was a guy in there, and he had a whole printout of all these things on why a knock sensor code can turn on, because they had an issue where knock sensor wasn't plugged in. It was a quality control problem. And that quality control problem led to that code happening after a transmission overhaul occurred. And now the guy's coming in armed to the gills with all the information he would need on why a knock sensor code can come
I
in.
did not go and print that out, okay? I didn't. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but I thought it was really interesting because there's this gentleman was handing over some research that he had done as though that were necessary. Why was it necessary? Was it necessary to prove that he understands something so that he doesn't get ripped off? Is it that he has lost confidence enough now? Where I think it's all the above types of things. The mistakes will do that. But what an interesting outcome. And of course, it was from the parts store trying to sell him a knock sensor, some of the research.
There's still some things that are continuing to not give our industry the best image out there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think they want to trust. I think they want to have that connection.
Well, it's just a good thing to know, though. I mean, since they're doing the research themselves, good to know. Our service advisors need to understand that there's a high probability you're talking to a individual who has educated themselves. And what you have to say probably is better education than whatever it is that they found and however they found it. And you may be coming at odds against that. I like knowing that ahead of time. And I think we started running into that.
But it's
really 15 years ago.
Craig, it's also important to know that it's not about, fixing cars and selling jobs. It's about that connection, right? Yes. I mean, when we're training advisors, the point is to build the connection and have a solution for them. They're experiencing a problem and they are going to hopefully go with your business and experience what it's like to have their problem solved by your business. So what are you doing to elevate the experience and build the connection? Because it's not about, the sensor or all that. It's about, can I be taken care of here? And can I trust that I'm going to get the best service and care and attention that I deserve?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Will they explain things to me? Will they treat me like a human? Are they going to be condescending? Or it is very much about the experience in the way that we're treated and also in the environment. What does it look like when I walk in? How do I feel in the environment? How do they talk to their coworkers? How are the employees interacting with each other? All of that is part of that experience.
Here's a great transition. Sorry, I'm going to hijack it because I want to jump to this, okay? Because I think it's poignant.
I'm with you.
71% of millennials want consistent performance reviews. Okay. And it's often said that millennials and Gen Z are the feedback generation. So when you think about dealing with customers and potential, clientele that's coming in, how are you reinforcing that positive feedback and creating expectations through that? It's about the text messaging. It's about not even just that and saying, hey, here's the report and here's your DVI, here's all this, but also setting up those expectations ahead of time so that they don't have to guess as to what the next step is going to be.
Yeah.
And providing that continuous feedback loop for them whether it's neutral, it's negative, or it's positive, they're just looking for that touch point.
That's such a good point. And the connection that you make on this, I'll articulate the way I see it. The fact that they're doing some research ahead of time coming in to our shops to still have the service work done. They've acknowledged they have the need and a solution is required. They're sort of giving you feedback. They're giving this industry a lot of feedback in that moment where they're doing this research, and to receive it as feedback would be the better outcome rather than to look at it just as a problem that people are getting wrong information or this information.
It's an opportunity, Craig. It's not a feedback or a problem. It's an opportunity for us. Mm-hmm. So if by the way, Sarah, how much of the buying power or job holders are millennials nowadays?
Oh gosh, I want to say about 30%.
Seems higher than that, doesn't it?
Well, Gen Z stepped up.
Gen Z is like what, 25%?
Gen Z is supposed to be 30 by the end of this year. So I think millennials, yeah, you're right. I think it's 40.
So
I know 40%, if you put Z and millennials together, we're about 70.
So if you say about 70% of the potential customers out there are going to be spending money and they enjoy feedback and they enjoy that communication, that's an opportunity for you to leverage that to improve and elevate the experience with your shop.
Pause. We might want to edit that because what I was just telling you is the percent of the workforce, not the percent of customers. I'm sorry.
I think it's the same because if they've got jobs, they'll spend money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead and pull the stat up, though. We can splice it in. Let me know when you got it. Yeah, stats are like this. 80% of all stats are made up on the spot. No,
I know, right? 22% of the population. 28% of all retail spending. So yeah, it's actually pretty close.
28%, 30% was on.
That's millennials, right? Or is that millennials?
Yeah,
and Gen Z?
that's millennials. Expected to be 31% by 2030. Now this is from the AI overview on Google. So how accurate that is?
Well, it's what it's telling the world, and the world will understand it because it's what it's been told.
Yeah. So yeah, about 30%. Yeah. Sorry.
So 30% millennials, another 20 to 25% coming in Gen Z. They expect continuous feedback and communication, maybe a little differently between Gen Z and the millennials.
So take it from a client perspective, right? We've talked about two things here. We're talking about the role of the millennial as a client, and now we're also crossing over into the role of the millennial in our shop as a staff member.
Yeah. That feedback as an employee is huge. It's the one thing that you can do without realizing that will drive a millennial employee away is not telling them how they're doing. It's when you don't get that feedback. And I'm not talking about feedback as like this formal sit down 30-day, 60-day review, that kind of a thing. It's constant. It's the how am I doing? If I'm not doing something right, letting me know in the moment. But when you don't provide that, I start telling myself how awful I am and that I'm doing a horrible job and I will fire myself before you even know that. And you might think I'm doing great, but if you don't tell me that, I'm already thinking I need to find something else.
It's that distrust. We're very anxious because what we thought was going to happen didn't happen. We had all these promises that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And I hate this conflation between the pat on the back attaboys that the older generations seem to think we need. It's not about you're doing well, I'm going to give you a gold star. It's not about that.
Participation award, that whole
It's really
stigma.
not.
It's validation.
We have this disillusion with whether or not what we are doing has any actual effect. I mean, we got a trophy for not really doing much. So, or maybe we did work, but everybody else got the same trophy. And so that devalued the effort and the reward that we should have seen or not seen. I think knowing whether you're moving the right direction or not is really important. And
I feel like the award business, Ken, I feel like was an overcorrection by a generation that didn't get enough. And I've always felt that the millennials are simply expressing in better terms, in my opinion, than the previous generation did for their parents or are listened to differently. And the overcorrection pendulum swing probably did go too far towards, yay, participation awards. And it's not the millennials' fault that happened, by the way.
No, but think about how dramatic that can affect, an entire generation where it's like, it doesn't matter how hard you work or the results you produce, we're going to give everybody the same reward and outcome, and it's like, oh, well, do I try harder? Do I not try? It's like playing a basketball game and we don't know what the score is. So I don't know if I'm winning or losing. I don't. Yeah. Right. And so now we're going into systems where we desire feedback, whether it's negative or positive. And it's not about, I really want to get a pat on the back. It's about, I have no idea if I'm doing well or not.
Yeah.
And then we could chase it, Sarah, and go, I don't know if maybe I'm terrible and I'm going to fire myself. Right. Or maybe they're like, I'm really amazing. I mean, look at this. I'm not even having to lift a finger. And then you have the opposite, another problem on the opposite end. So
we see that. We see a lot of overconfidence in millennials, or just saying yes to everything, which also tends to lead into the millennial burnout that we see, because we think we can do everything. We were told we could do whatever we wanted. We were going to have it so much better. So we
don't have good internal gauges as a generation. And so what can we do? What can the leaders do? How can we communicate more effectively to help millennials either be more successful or align themselves or even feel confident in using our services?
You roll your eyes at them, you shake your head, and you say, I didn't need that level of feedback when I was growing up.
I didn't need somebody to tell me I was doing well every day.
Yeah, you just tell them how entitled they are and, move on.
Yeah, gosh.
It's really the being able to show the meaning, the why, the work that they're doing and why it matters and how they're impacting other people, whether it's customers, whether it's within that organization. But that validation of, you are doing something that matters, and just that feedback of, okay, I'm on the right track, or I have a path. You were talking about career paths earlier before we hopped on here. And that's just having that direction is really important.
93% want paid vacation, 89% value paid training, and 78% 78% want a clear career path. That's almost 80% of millennials want a clear career path.
Yeah. How well are we doing that in this industry? You can get old wrenching until you're 40, then you're old wrenching, right?
You know who is doing a good job of it? A lot of the manufacturers who've invested in those types of programs at universities, who are lining up career paths and then having apprenticeship, journeyman, right? All of that laid out.
Yeah, we learn these lessons slow in the aftermarket sometimes, and that's unfortunate.
It's not hard. Start with something.
Anything
is better than nothing.
Yes. Yeah, I'm always amazed. Our little transmission shop, knowing some of the people who went through there and where they're at now, managing large organizations. My brother, who's managing a team of just crack diagnosticians and ADAS calibration specialists now, and all the different things. I couldn't even have imagined all the different directions you could go in this industry when I was young. I just thought you just become this, and then maybe you become like this tech in the shop or this tech in the shop, and that was it. But there are countless directions that we can go and cultivate people towards. And I feel like we are dropping the ball on that message when the people that we need are making decisions about what career they want to start. No one wants to just do one thing forever anymore, is what I've noticed.
I interview people all day long, and that is one of the things that I get asked all the time. Is there growth opportunity? Or if I ask, what's the most important thing to you in your next job? Growth opportunity comes up there a lot. Or what would this position look like 5 years from now? Where can I go? And that goes, advisors and technicians both are wanting to know what direction they're headed in.
It's not an entitlement. It's just clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just clarity.
That. Yep.
You just made that so much less convoluted.
Yes. See, clarity is the opposite. Now, you just mentioned something too, Sarah, that plays with another statistic really well that Kent threw at us, and that is 73%. 73% is the percentage of millennials that are finding their job on social media, job listings. Is that driving with what you're seeing on the hiring side?
A little bit. I mean, I would be curious to know what they identify as social media. Like, do they include Indeed in that, right? Like, or is it social media posts that are linked to sites like Indeed and ZipRecruiter kind of postings? I will say it is online. I mean, they're not going in person anymore to look for a job. LinkedIn is big, so I could see that, definitely being part of the social media part of that. Yeah. And nice. Even if they aren't finding the posting through social media, they are going to go check out that company's social media before deciding if they want to work there.
Now, I've gotten the impression Facebook's on its way out now. It seems to be an older audience across the board. LinkedIn, I feel like it's holding on, but I feel like it's moving in directions I haven't even been interested in going. And TikTok, YouTube, obviously pretty popular with other generations. I don't really see a lot on jobs for our industry and any platform because I've taken a step back from social media. I guess that's where I would lean on you two is where do you think shops are actually effective right now? And maybe where should they be? I think would be the question that comes from this statistic because 73% is a huge number.
When you say YouTube, Gen Z uses YouTube more than Google search. If they want to find information, that's where they're looking. So that, and I think we overall underuse that.
I think you're seeing a lot of, especially Gen Z, stepping away from traditional social media, things like Facebook. And I don't even think they touch Facebook, but like Instagram.
No, they'll tell you Facebook is for old people. They go on there to like see what their parents and grandparents are doing. It's not, you're not going to find anything about them on Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not the best millennial to ask because I obfuscated myself from social media in like high school. I detest it.
Smart move.
I didn't have social media in high school to get out. I mean, we had MySpace when I was in high school, but
I think it's a growing trend, and it'll be interesting to see too. As one of the takeaways we want people to fill out the survey that we'll have linked in our show notes. So Ken has put this together, and we really want to direct people there and continue to get more feedback. We want to close that survey around August 1st. You said, Ken, August 1st. Yep. So that'll be good to get some more input on this. I predict a trend and seeing a continuing decline in that percentage of people going for jobs on social media, but internet obviously is still a component, like Sarah's saying. So it'd be an interesting thing.
Well, AI is starting to break the way that we find work. I mean, you've got people who are now having to submit 1,000 resumes to 1,000 different businesses, and then the companies there are also using, computation to review all of those resumes. And so it's like you can't stand out, you can't build a connection because our contact points are all computers.
Yes, absolutely. I was reading an article just on the same point, and there's AI. The AI will custom tailor a resume to a specific job for you now, and since you have AI hiring managers that are first filter on all of these incoming resumes, you don't even have a human that knows they applied or a human that knows someone applied. It's horrible.
terrifying.
It really is.
I hate to say it, but the boomers were right when they said just pick up a phone and call somebody.
I would say
that I
Gen
won't
Z. Gen Z even has it better. And Sarah, you mentioned this before. Gen Z, they value face-to-face interactions higher than even the millennials did, and probably even more than the tail end of Xers and boomers. In-person networking is going to take on a new level of importance. I hope those interpersonal communication skills we talk about on this podcast all the time. So look for 73% to go down and down. I hope for jobs, man. I would say, be aware of it. You have to be able to be aware of it and be in both parts of this world today.
It's not something you can go, well, I'm just not going to deal with. It is the way that the system is built, and we have to learn the system enough to play it.
Correct.
And maneuver within it.
You got it.
To do what's right. And what's right is to find young talent, help them get aligned with a company that has good culture and has a path for them to learn and grow, and then invest in that.
Good culture. So next statistic I follow, this one was really cool too. 66% of millennials say they prefer flat teams and constant engagement. Can you explain that?
Collaboration. So they don't want very tall vertical organizations in terms of, maybe a super manager support, whatever. They're looking for more flat engagement because we see that personal relationship differently. That's why, like, you'll see boomers get really upset about, they called me by my first name and not by, sir or my whatever. It's like, look, we're all people. We're all wanting to, and it goes back to they want mentorship. They want to have that connection with somebody that they can feel vulnerable enough to say, I don't know how to do this, or I need help with this. Right. And so I think that what you're seeing here is we've seen so much waste in having all these different levels of management. I think the bureaucracy maybe have prevented us from being more effective than we could have been, but it does go back to that interpersonal connection that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And
Sara,
you nailed that
this
earlier with mentorship. Yeah, it's this, when you're a millennial, you don't want this boss that's intimidating or this, person that you can't have a relationship or can't talk to. We're not looking for a boss. We're looking for a leader. We're looking to somebody to guide us. We're looking for mentorship. And that's not even just necessarily about our job. We might ask our bosses for guidance and mentorship in things that have nothing to do with work. I've lived that. When I worked at a shop, my boss would help me out with all sorts of stuff about home repairs or all kinds of things. And that's what we're looking for, is an actual human that knows who we are, that knows a little bit about us, that we can ask advice, that we can look for to help us make decisions and all sorts of things like that. But when you have this hierarchy of titles and this, lack of communication and lack of human feelings and things, you don't get that. And we're seeing that in Gen Z too. Gen Z does not respect hierarchy. They don't care how long you've done something. It's what you know and how you treat them. That's what matters. They don't care about if you've done it for 20 years or 2 years. Like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Contribution. It's not I don't think they look at respect as earned. I think they look at respect as expected. The status I deserve as a person to be respected for who I am, where I'm at. And I can give you that same respect for you as a person and where you're at.
Yeah.
Versus, you haven't done the grind. You haven't earned my respect yet. They don't.
But that's why the guys in the grind often have a subculture in a shop environment sometimes where you do have a convoluted hierarchy that doesn't make sense to people. And what do you see? What the corporate team may see is like this subculture that is developed. But is that a subculture? I don't know. I think that might be the culture, and that's bucking up against that trend of things. And I see that in larger organizations more often than not, where titles matter more than in a smaller team. Yeah, titles.
Millennials will definitely gravitate more towards democratic leaders than authoritarian leaders. They want their voices to be heard. They want everybody's opinion to be valued and included, and so that's kind of the process that they look for, versus the kind of leader that's my way or the highway, or the because I said so type thing, or we've always done it this way. I mean, that's not what we're looking for.
We've always done it this way is such a great traditional approach to doing business.
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about a lot of our positioning and why we are the way we are. Looking at the survey from the people who have submitted so far, some of the things they feel is keeping the younger people from entering or even staying in. At the very top of the list, it's things like low compensation or compensation plans. And then immediately after, it's life and culture. And it's not because they want the money, it's because they need security.
Yes. Yeah. Tough world to get started in.
It's not an entitlement. It's not I'm earned this. I deserve it. It's I absolutely need this. And if you go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if we're not fulfilling the basic support for income and getting their resources sorted out, they can't think about anything beyond themselves in terms of connectivity with our team, or even moving beyond that to, their own competency and growth.
Yeah. And you do not want a team that's just in a chaotic environment that feels like they have to get done what must be done only because they're trying to get their basic needs met. It's a recipe for chaos and destruction. I see that in the busiest shops where the most stressed out people are, and they cannot get ahead of themselves in those environments.
We need space. We need more space. And I say space in terms of resources, in terms of time, in terms of allowing for the growth and development. I'll ask in class, how long did it take master techs to become masters? And Craig, how long does it normally take?
Oh, gosh, 15 years.
Okay. So are we allowing for the space? Are we
What's your degree of mastery?
Tools, training, resources? And then allowing them, or are we saying, okay, you just came from the college. I need you to churn 40 hours immediately. And also figure out diagnostics, but I can't have you do diagnostics because you're not experienced enough. So I'm going to put you on more of the grunt work jobs, and I'm not going to provide you an opportunity to even practice diagnostic skills.
Correct.
Because I have to have somebody else who knows how to do diagnostics, but I also need you to start learning how to do it, but I'm not going to give you time to do it.
Time is money. Money is time, and we don't have the time, and we don't have the money. So that's
we need
basically
space.
Space is key. My brother took years to become an expert diagnostician, and that was not the most production from him in those couple of years. It was a learning curve that we had to give space to as an overhead cost effectively for the business to produce that kind of technician that we desperately needed. And it paid for itself many times over. And he became the mentor for other people that was able to then cultivate them into the process as well. And then we had an established process. It was hard to make, and
I think about bourbon in this regard. Bourbon takes 4 years to essentially become bourbon. And during that time, the company is not able to sell a bourbon product, but they'll take certain types of alcohols off of that, and vodka and all that. But I think there's something to be said about quality and about the craftsmanship that happens when you invest in a bourbon and allowing the time and space for it to mature to become something worth that. And it's the same thing when it comes to our talent.
Oh, and it's a great feedback piece too. When you're investing in someone and they understand that an investment is being made, that's a profound piece of feedback constantly being applied.
Yeah. So when I think about
Oh, go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
Go ahead. The entry-level technicians coming in, we're probably looking more at Gen Z in that era. And
Truly now, yeah.
Right. So what I always think of with Gen Z, my phrasing for them is challenge me and support me. And that is that when they come in, they don't just want to be handed the stuff that they know how to do. They want to be challenged so that they can grow. But we also need to support them when they fail because it's going to happen. And, understanding that where the millennials, I look at, our phrasing is more inspire me, include me. Gen Z is this challenge me, but support me. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. And I think we both, in both generations, need that space that you're talking about.
Well, that plays with one other statistic here, too, which is 75%. That's 3/4 of the responses for millennials prefer no weekends. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised it's not a little higher. Why isn't it 100% for work hours?
Time spent. I think we have somewhat of a healthier perspective on time spent. This is a thing that I talk about with owners often, is doing a time assessment where your time is actually being spent, because time is the ultimate resource that is constantly being drained. Whether you're sleeping, you're at home watching TV, you're talking to your team, you're dealing with customers, you're putting out fires, is where's the time actually being spent? I think that millennials at this point now have a very real sense of what can be at risk if we don't spend that time well.
Yeah.
So we're a little protective of it.
I'm very protective of it. As a parent, elder millennial parent of Generation Z, my son will be 20 in September. And in the part-time job world, while he's doing school, it's a little bit more challenging to not have a job on the weekend. And what I'll tell you is the most frustrating thing for me and my wife is, okay, we have our weekend right here. We're going to go do something as a family. And he can't participate in that. It's very frustrating. So
I've seen a lot of shops move over to 410s just to provide 3 days. And frankly, they're happy to do that. In fact, a lot of the times when we are polling the teams there, that's one of the main ideas they bring up. They're like, look, I would love to work all this, but I'll do 410s so that I can have a 3-day weekend.
Heck
that I can spend time with my family. I mean, a lot of the people
commutes too. That's just amazing how much
younger
more efficient
families
that is with time.
and
Yeah. We're seeing shops that do it are making more money too. Like we've talked to shops that have done it saying, hey, we're going to do it for the summer and then we'll go back in the winter, and they don't go back. They're like, we'll never go back. This is the way
you get diminishing returns when you burn out your team.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I see so many organizations not realize that, guys. It's so frustrating to see. I do see 7-day work weeks out of some people, and I get it. You can stagger your team and you can still have portions of the team do that, but still, who wants to do it on these days and who wants to do it on these days becomes the issue. When you do the 410 stuff, is it pretty universal, like no Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or is it more like Saturday, Sunday, no Monday? Or
we've seen both. I know shops that are both. Yeah, Saturday, Sunday, but it's either Friday or Monday is usually the third day. We also have a shop that does kind of a hybrid where they are open 5 days and the employees kind of have the option to do the 410s or the 5 days.
Yep.
Because if you do have young kids, I only know of a couple of shops that are doing that way. I think most of the shops I know that have it are just the 410s. But if you think about families that have younger kids and sports and things like that, working that long 10-hour day, you're not getting home until maybe 6, 7 o'clock at night and missing out on some of that. So there's, what makes the most sense.
Wow. No one right answer, is there?
No.
Interesting. Yeah, no weekends, though, was always my reality growing up. That was one thing our family business, I think, did great. Weekends were sacred. And even though, maybe we miss out on some jobs over the weekend, wasn't necessary to improve our quality of life, which was good. That was good. I am glad that has maintained for most people. And it always makes me a little sad when I see, especially technicians that are required to work 6 days of the week, even where they have that one day off. Man, that is just burnout waiting to happen in this industry.
Yeah, not only is it physically exhausting, but it's also mentally exhausting, especially if you're dealing with more complex diagnostics.
Yep.
It can really drain you.
Yep. Or seasonal.
I mean, there's a sweet spot. It's not like they only work 2 days a week. You have to have some level of stress so that you're in that optimum zone.
Yeah.
Right. And urgency and pressure. But, if you're in the right environment, allowing the space for the things that they find important and valuable to them, like spending time with their kids.
Yeah. Or when you're a young man and you got nothing else to do other than work and earn money so you can start your life, maybe overtime opportunities can fill the gap. And that's another thing that is not talked about very often. And I do know for a fact my son loves those opportunities. And what's weird is his organization, one of them he's with right now with a car wash, is hawkishly preventing anyone from going over 40 hours. I swear their managers are actually incentivized to not allow overtime pay to happen, even though you have some kids that are working that are hungry. Eager. Interesting, isn't it? Mm-hmm. One other statistic here that I thought really stood out, 84% say reviews matter.
Goes back to that authenticity. As far as making decisions?
Yeah, for who you're doing business with. We're back to a client, I think, mostly in this case, although probably not only, because this is probably true for staff members looking at businesses too.
I was going to say, if I'm really looking at a business, or whether to work with or work for or to hire, those reviews are massively important. And at least for me personally, I can tell when the reviews are fake. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate because think about the way that systems and society go. Just in main retail, it's required online in order to have reviews to build up that rapport to even get found in Google. So there's massive things like, review farms. Luckily, I don't think that's happened here in this industry yet, but it's a necessary evil because a product and service won't get found unless they have reviews, and they won't get reviews until they get business.
And the AI
when
knows
I was working in a shop I worked there for 6 years, 7 years ago. So, this is a while back, and we were a used car dealership, and we had companies approach us about that, about creating reviews for us, all of that. And it's, we had great reviews. We really encouraged our customers to go on there and leave that feedback. And as somebody who's doing that research to decide who I'm going to do business with, as a millennial, I'm definitely looking at reviews. And typically I'm looking at their most recent, and then I'm looking at their lowest. And I'm not looking at their lowest to be how did they mess up? I'm looking to find out how did they respond to that unhappy person. And I don't expect that, companies are going to have 5.0. Actually, I think that most millennials will then think that's fake if they're all perfect.
4.8, 4.9.
We expect there to be a little, you can't make everyone happy, but then I want to know how was that handled? And so this is my advice to shop owners is when you get those bad reviews, because they happen, right? Things happen. And when you're writing that response to it, don't think about that person that is really upset with you that wrote it, because they may or may not come back to read it. But who is reading it is every prospective customer and every prospective employee who's considering working for you is who's looking, especially in this generation. That's where we're looking.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Really good point. Yeah, it isn't just for the person.
It's there.
Yeah. The worst ones are when you can see someone who took offense to it and they're having an argument now with the person who left the review, and it just looks like garbage.
Yeah. And usually I say, take a day or two because if it's chances are there's some emotion tied to it, right? You're a little heated. You were maybe involved in it. You're defensive for sure. So take a day or two, take a breath, and then respond to it. But only think about the people, your customers and your future employees that are going to be reading how you treated that person.
You also need to add in to your whatever your process is for closing out customers, but some kind of feedback touch point for either a referral or review, right? Or even scheduling their returning appointment. What are the ways that you're building into the system to continue to get that feedback? And are you also looking at getting feedback and reviews from your employees? I mean, one of the best things you can do to attract talent is to have your team express what their life is like with your business. Have them do a video interview, or have them give you a review on your careers page, and ask them to be open and authentic and honest, because that's the best. That's the best way, best feedback you'll get is something that's honest and authentic.
Oh, that's so good, because you pulled one other stat here. 66% of millennials responding said work lives meet the corporate image that was sold to them. 66%. That means a third are not.
A third are not. And so if your team is saying, I get supported here, I get leadership training here, they're investing in my development, they've got a career path for me, the benefits are fantastic, I'm taken care of financially, and they just talk about their experience, and the team is really great to work with. They're all very supportive, and it's just up on your either YouTube channel or on your website, or even if you have it in writing, and they give you a review as an employee on those. I think there's a few other sites out there that you
Glassdoor.
Glassdoor is Glassdoor. But it's also a great opportunity as a leader to get feedback for how you're doing. How am I doing as a leader?
I was just going to say that, do we know that we're meeting that? And that's something that I've been talking about with clients a lot, is doing stay interviews. And this is an interview that we do with employees. Yeah. It's not a review. It's not a performance review.
We do exit interviews. Why don't we do stay interviews?
Exactly. It's a one-on-one where you sit down and you ask them how satisfied they are in the job. Are there strengths of yours that you feel we're not using? Is there training you want to take? Is there something you want to learn? If you were to leave this job, why would you leave for another job? It's a very... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I also wanted to throw in the question, is there experience that someone else has that you'd love to learn from, or a relationship you'd like to invest in? And that, again, just tries to reinforce that idea of mentorship, connecting to another person in the company and gaining some kind of mentorship-mentee relationship.
And it's all this millennial touchy-feely nonsense, guys. What?
But it's not.
Cecil calls it foo-foo.
It is and it isn't. If you want to be, pragmatic about it, the investment in connectivity, support, understanding information allows for higher productivity, performance. You're gonna spend less because you're gonna retain more employees. So you'll spend less on training, on having to spend ads to go hire somebody. They'll perform better, meaning that your overall labor and cost will go down, but your performance will go up. Your profitability is going to skyrocket. Yeah. There's a practical sense to this. It doesn't have to be touchy-feely.
That's right.
It is, but there's still that very human connection to it that can be touchy-feely, right? And Cecil can call it foo-foo, which I love now that Tracy and I have become Team Foo-Foo. But
Team Foo-Foo. All right.
As much as we like to get feedback in this generation, we also want to give it. And so being able to open that door to that conversation, to have that opportunity to give feedback as well. And
I love that you said that. I just had a conversation with somebody about a difficult employee, somebody who is maybe an older generation who's a little stubborn and not buying in on the new culture initiatives they're going to do. And they were worried about getting them connected. And I said, well, give them an opportunity to contribute. Have this older tech train the team on something and contribute to the team during your team meetings. And I challenged them, go do this. And they went and they talked to them about this, and they gave their 15-minute training element during the lunch. And they were like, they reported it was the first time I'd seen that person smile. Wow. It's like, it's not just about the millennials wanting to give feedback. I think the older generations want to also give their experience and give their knowledge, but it's that relationship's been severed. So find opportunities for everybody to contribute their value to the group, to the organization, to the team. Well
said. Yeah. One of the things I teach my son too, as a Gen Zer, I said, the best thing that you could do when you go into a job, and there's a guy there that's been doing it for a while too, ask them questions and don't respond with their answers like, I know. Let them teach you something. It will make them feel good, and they'll see you better as a result of that as well. And that's a great bridge for generations to be aware of as we learn to engage each other better. Super cool conversation, guys. This time flies when we're having these chats. Any closing remarks you want to throw in? Sara, you want to go first?
I think just being more open-minded instead of trying to categorize the millennial thinks this way, the Gen Zer thinks this way. We need to change everything to meet their expectations. And I've had that conversation when I've taught these classes before. I've had somebody in class literally say, well, I don't understand why we need to cater to them. And this was a class on attracting millennial and Gen Z employees. Before I could even respond, somebody on the other side of the room shouted out, because we need them more than they need us. And so I think changing the perspective, it's not catering to this generation. It's learning and understanding and having conversations and having the communication to find out the needs and meet those needs.
Nice. Ken?
My biggest thing, and I wrote this down a few times, it's find and invite contribution. Contribution is not just I'm giving you something, but it's also the receiving of that thing, meaning that we need to practice listening and understanding. I don't care what generation you are, we all have to work together. We're all on the same team. And I think that's what people don't realize, is that we're either going to, sink as a team, or we're going to swim as a team, and find the opportunities for the team to contribute and enjoy those contributions.
Very nice. Hey, I hear Toastmasters Club is a great way to practice those sort of things, the listening and contributing. And I had to throw it in. No, Ken, thanks so much. And Sara, thank you too. This is such a fun conversation to have. And I trust it'll be the same for our listeners. And hey, remember, listen up to the other shows on the Aftermarket Radio Network as well. Carm Capriato started it all really with podcasting and Remarkable Results Radio. And he brought Matt Fonzlo on. I don't know why, but he has a show. It's Diagnosing the Aftermarket, A through Z. No, Matt is wonderfur. And in terms of a technical mentor, you'll find such good humor in him. He's fun to learn from. And then Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest. And he's great too. Makes numbers fun, even though they're not fun at all for me. And you have the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast with Brian and Kim Walker, and the Weekly Blitz with Coach Chris Cotton. And folks, we want to drive you also to give us the feedback in the form of the survey that Kent has painstakingly created. So please visit theaftermarketradio.com and find the Speak Up link, and we'll make this link in our show notes for this episode, and we'll push it out to you a few other ways as well. And if you have questions for me, reach up, speakup@craigoneil.net by email. I will happily share the link with you there as well. Ken, thanks so much. I can't wait to see you later in September. In Ogden, right? What is it? September 4 for Mars? Is that right?
4 through 6.
September 4 through 6. Okay, I'll be there. I'll be doing some speaking with y'all, and I am definitely going out in those beautiful mountains, and I'm bringing my wife this time. So if anyone hears this and they want to go for a hike in Ogden, the Mars conference put on by the Institute, it's going to be a lot of fun. Sara, you've been to Ogden.
I have. Beautiful. It looks fake. It's so pretty. It looks fake. Like the entire time. I'm just like, it's like whatever that movie was, where Jim Carrey is stuck in that fake little bubble. And is that the Truman Show? I think that might have been. Anyway, I'm like, I'm like, it just looks fake. It's so pretty. I'm a millennial. I don't trust it.
Nice.
It's terrible, everybody. Don't come here.
No, it's gorgeous.
No.
The cost of living is already tremendously high, Kent. You don't have to worry about too many people moving there.
Like, stop moving here. No.
But that Great Salt Lake, I got to tell you, with the Michigan lakes, man, we know what Great Lakes are here. But they're not salty. Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thanks. Now, please go out there, listen up, speak up, and you know what? Get these generations to contribute more. I think that's a great goal. I love it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You've been listening to Speak Up, Effective Communication with Craig O'Neill on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Craig on your favorite podcast listening app and on his YouTube channel. Let him know what you'd like him to speak up about. Craig is all for advancing the automotive service aftermarket.